Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and the series that I am dedicating to explaining the ins and outs of travel nursing. If you're new here, my name is Olivia and I've been a travel nurse for 3 years, living full-time out of this RV with my husband and 2 rescue dogs. This video is going to be talking all about travel nurse recruiters, and this is a general overview of them no matter what agency they work for. I'm going to be talking a lot about my experiences, both positive and negative, so you can use those as green and red flag examples when going forward with your own travel nurse recruiter. We briefly talked about travel nurse recruiters already in a video dedicated on how to choose a travel nurse agency. But to simply define a recruiter again, let's go back to the basics. The recruiter is an employee of the travel nurse agency that you're potentially going to work for. They're the first person in the chain of command of the agency that you would have conversation with. You are assigned to them as a traveler, and they are your point of contact throughout the entire length of that travel nurse contract. They are the person that you're going to be going to for questions and concerns regarding the agency they work for, the hospital you're trying to get contracted at, questions about the onboarding process with that travel agency, and getting answers for questions that you have regarding the facility you're trying to get contracted at. Typically, they're the most interactive with you, getting you set up to work for that agency and also getting you on the initial assignment. They're going to be compiling a profile for you which contains your licensure and certifications, immunization records, anything that the agency or the facilities you're trying to work at need to reference in order to have you as an active employee. If you take nothing away from this video except one thing, let it be this point I'm about to make. Your travel nurse recruiter makes money off of you working for their agency. They have a certain number of travel nurses that they're responsible for, and they are making kickback for those travel nurses taking assignments for the agency that they work for. And I want to emphasize that because I think it gives a reflection to the reasoning behind some of their actions, both good and bad. Some of those actions could be making you feel pushed to accept a contract or offering little incentives for you to stay with that agency they work for and continue to take contracts with them. That can look like little presents for your birthday, little presents for the holidays, fast food vouchers. Those are just some simple ones that come to mind. On the opposite side of things, and what I would view as a negative to the fact that they make money off of you, could explain why sometimes specific recruiters come across as pushy and manipulative to get you to sign on a contract with them. I'm walking into a contract where I will devote potentially 36 hours of my life every week to work under the constraints of that hospital. I want to make sure that it is a good fit for me, and I don't want to feel manipulated or pushed into making that decision. That's why I want to emphasize that you have to do what's best for you. I recommend getting profiles set up with multiple different travel agencies, and that means that you will have multiple different travel recruiters associated with each agency. Some recruiters will make you feel bad for that. They'll emphasize the work that they've already done with you, but ultimately, you're an independent contractor working for yourself. You're going through agencies to find jobs, but those relationships are set in place for the length of the contract. You should not feel pressured by a recruiter to continue that relationship if you find a contract for a different agency that's better suited for you. There's nothing to say that you can't return to the original recruiter, but you have to do what's best for you, and sometimes that's switching agencies. Some people don't like to do that if they have to get benefits through their agency because you're constantly getting different insurance cards and things like that, but this can really apply to people that are covered under independent insurance or on their partner's insurance. So a quick pros and cons list of some green and red flags for a travel nurse recruiter, in my opinion, would be green flags. They are responsive quickly when you have questions. They are knowledgeable about the agency that they work for. They understand your requirements for a contract that you want, whether that's the shift type, the amount of pay, the specialty of nursing that you want to get a contract in, things like that. They're able to get answers from the facility you're interested in. They treat you like more than just a number, where they're respectful towards you over the phone, understand the constraints of the responsibilities that you currently have. Are you still working? Are you on a 12-hour shift and they're expecting you to reply to them? They remember the reasoning behind why you want to travel, and they're sending contracts that are specifically reflective of those reasons. A really blatant example of that would be, I say, I want to work day shift in Arizona. I should not be receiving contracts from a recruiter for night shift in Pennsylvania. Cons would be the exact opposite of the green flags. They are not responsive. They treat you like a number. They don't remember details about you and are sending contracts that you would never choose to take. They come across as pushy when you're trying to determine if that agency or that contract is a good fit for you. I'm going to share some specific stories of experiences that I had while I was on assignments that made a light bulb go off in my head that this is not a recruiter I want to continue working with. When I first started getting into travel nursing, I felt like I didn't know anything, and I was really reliant on my first recruiter to tell me the ins and outs of how things worked. And I think that kind of worked to my disadvantage because she started feeling like a big sister that I needed for support, and I felt more obligated to work for her. When I decided on a contract through an agency that she was not a part of, it was like I was dumping her over the phone. There were these long pauses and sighs, and she straight up said, "I'm disappointed in you." It still irks me a little bit to this day, if you can't tell, because I don't owe you anything. I'm trying to make this experience the best thing possible for me, and that entails finding an assignment that can fulfill those desires. I did take an assignment with that recruiter because the agency she worked for offered an assignment in a location I really wanted to go to, but she made me feel like my options were really limited when I was starting to look for new contracts again. She said things like, "You shouldn't be so narrow-minded about having to have a contract that's day shift. Night shift is more prevalent and easier to get. You'll be able to find things better that way." That rubs me the wrong way, and that tactic makes me so irritated for new travelers because that is not the case. I worked 9 different assignments and only 2 of those were night shift. I made it a priority. I made it an absolute no. I'm not working night shift. And the fact that she said that that is basically not possible as a traveler is a straight up lie. Another personal experience that I'll tie into this video is with a completely different nurse recruiter that, again, I no longer work with. Every phone call I had with her was exactly the same. I felt like I was on speakerphone and she was more focused on her laptop. She would ask me a question and then stop me mid-answer so that she could type on the computer. And sometimes she would tell me to wait in a way that I could tell she was doing work that completely didn't involve me, and I was just on the other end of the phone silent. She would ask me a question and then shush me halfway through the answer so that she could type things out. And some of that is fine. I get it. You have a lot of travelers who you're responsible for. It's hard to keep us all straight, especially when it's just a voice on the other end of the phone. But I could tell sometimes that she was typing and doing things completely unrelated to me. It felt like she was wasting my time, and it was very frustrating to have to sit on the end of the phone and wait for her to re-enter the conversation. This same recruiter seemed to constantly forget one of the main details about me as a travel nurse. I had an RV, and in that sense, it means I am not the person that you need to consistently keep asking if I'm going to need company or agency housing. It's my responsibility to find housing for myself. I must have told this woman that 30 times, and that immediately tells me I'm just a number to her. Please keep these things in mind as you work with travel nurse recruiters. They are not all created equal. I hope you found this video helpful and you can learn from some of the mistakes that I made. If you have any questions about travel nursing or an idea for a future video involving this topic, please let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a video about this series where I dive in deeper about more things involving travel nursing. Goodbye!